Vice Chair King,
Here.
Commissioner Stewart,
Here.
Commissioner Tobacco,
Here.
and Commissioner Villabadua.
Here.
Conflict of interest. Any planning commission members or staff who has a direct conflict of interest on any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare their conflict at this time. Any conflict? No. Okay, none. Moving forward. Public comments. At this time, no action can be taken. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission Board. Individual comments will be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes per person, and each person may speak once during their time. Time cannot be yielded to another person under state law. Matters presented during the public comment period cannot be discussed or acted upon. For record purposes, state your name and city of residence. Please make your comments directly to the Planning Commission. So are there any public comments at this time? Alrighty, seeing none, we'll move forward to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are to be acted upon by a single action of the Planning Commission Board unless otherwise requested by an individual planning commissioner member for special consideration. Otherwise, the recommendations of staff will be accepted and acted upon by roll call vote. So did I
would like to pull item 2.3.
pull? Okay. So how do we do that? Just like that? Okay, so we go to item 2.1 and 2.2, excluding 2.3, will be combined into one vote. Item 2.1, posting of the agenda. The agenda for the March 21st, 2015 Planning Commission meeting was posted on the City Community Center Bulletin Board, City Hall North and South Bulletin Board, Post Office, City website, and email to the library on May 17th. And then we have 2.2, approval of the agenda. This provides an opportunity for the Planning Commission staff to recommend that an item be placed on the agenda for discussion or to adjust the proposed agenda to allow an item to be taken out of order. 2.3 will be pulled, and we'll be doing that on another date, right? How do we have it?
You can bundle together 2.1, 2.2, 2.4, and 2.5, and then just vote on 2.3 separately.
Okay. As we continue with noting what was just mentioned, we're going to go to item 2.4, approval of the extension of the tentative subdivision map 01-214 for Mark Wilbur, Diamond Bar West. Request to extend the tentative map for 120 days. Resolution, I guess it was that resolution number? 2017-004 and 2.5, approval of extension of tentative subdivision map 02-2014 for Carrie Pope, Diamond Bar West. Request to extend the tentative map for 24 months. Resolution number 2017005.
That one was actually Diamond Bar East, the second
Diamond
one.
Bar East. Sorry about that. That's my eyes. Sorry. Okay, so we're going for roll call vote for approval. All right.
Second it.
Chair McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair King,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Tobacco,
Yes.
and Commissioner Villabadua.
Yes.
Item 2.3, I just property need to be held responsible?
That again? I'm sorry.
Owners of rental property.
So the item number on the minutes?
It was, well, I can't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was under Commissioners' comments.
Oh, okay.
Motion that we approve item 2.3 as amended.
Second.
And I will remove myself from that voting as I was absent.
Chair McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair King,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, Commissioner Tabacco.
Yes.
Okay, so we move to item 3, presentation, need presented by staff.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners, and our Chair. Tonight, we are fortunate to have Carrie McNichols of the Stanislaus County DIBS program to give us a little presentation on the new program.
Good evening. My name is Carrie McNichol. Thank you for having me here this evening. I am here to talk to you tonight about a program called DIBS, which until recently some of you may have known as Commute Connection. So we are a program that was formed through cooperation between the San Joaquin Council of Governments, the Stanislaus Council of Governments, and the Merced County Association of Governments. And our goal is to help promote what we call smart travel: biking, walking, carpooling, transit, van pooling, all of those various modes in an effort to improve our air quality, reduce the impact on our roads, and reduce congestion on our roadways as well. So we've been working to sort of refresh and revitalize the program over the last year, and just last week did our public launch, and so here to share some of that with you for your own information this evening, and then for the community as well moving forward. I do have a brief video, if we can get it working. I think we maybe can. That'll just kind of give you
Getting to work or school doesn't have to be like this. It's time to think outside the driver's seat. There's a new way to find your way around San Joaquin, Stanislaus, and Merced counties, as well as surrounding areas. It's called DIBS. It's your portal to all things smart travel. That means finding carpools and van pools, as well as learning about transit, rail, walking, and biking options. It's about smarter, healthier, more environmentally friendly travel. Are you ready to call dibs on smart travel your way? Visit dibsmyway.com to register for free. When you log your trips, you can win great prizes. So what are you waiting for? Call dibs on smarter travel today.
That's sort of our little teaser video that we have, teaser commercial for the program. And we'll get the PowerPoint back up here. Yeah, just one's good. So as you heard in the video, the DIBS program is about more than just kind of directions. It's really about connecting people with their options. So I'm going to go over a few of what those are, a few of the ways that we support people, that we support the business community. And overall, our goal is about what we call smart travel your way, really putting it in the hands of our community and our commuters. So what is smart travel? When we were kind of refreshing our program here, we realized that a lot of people around here don't think they commute. They might drive 20, 30, 40 minutes, but they don't think of that as a commute, unless they're making that long trip over to the Bay Area where they've got, an hour, hour and a half. So we wanted to get away from that. We also found that people don't really relate to alternative transportation. They think of green and sustainable as being kind of niche definitions for what they do. They might consider biking, for instance, but maybe they're not a real green person, quote unquote. So we decided we'd just kind of skip all of the rhetoric around that and develop a community of what we're calling smart travelers. but there's an implicit little pat on the back there for anyone who's a smart traveler. So these are our folks who are getting to work, getting to school, getting around town in carpools, van pools, and other smart ways such as transit, biking, or walking to decrease traffic and pollution. So our goal with our tools and with this new program launch is to make things easy for people. Time and time again, we have heard that convenience is the #1 factor for people in choosing how they get around. The more convenient we can make these other options for them, the more likely they are to use them. So all of our services are free. It is a free program for the community. And so our first step is to encourage people to become a member. Sign up at dibsmyway.com, get access to the resources. Through that, they are able to plan their travel or their commute through our system. They get sort of an A to Z list of options, whether that's finding someone they can carpool with, seeing where there's open seats in vans, transit routes that fit their schedules, bike routes through their neighborhoods, and even, in some cases, bike buddies, people who are looking for someone else to ride to work with them. From there, they can also track their trips in our system, record them, see the impact that they're having on things like air quality, calories burned, the amount of time and money that they're saving. And then from that, we also have incentives built into the system to reward them for making those choices. So many of our core services we've offered for a long time, and we will be enhancing with this new program. The trip planning that I mentioned, which I'll go into a little more detail on, carpool and van pool services, our emergency ride home program, and then the support that we provide for employers in the business community as well. So I mentioned our trip planner. We have over 6,000 residents in that database right now across the 3-county area, and we're just shy of 7,000 right now, actually. So we're bumping up close against that number. And these are people who have gone in, said that they're looking for alternatives, and are looking to be connected with someone. And these are people traveling into, out of, and within our 3 counties. So going to and from the Bay Area, Sacramento, the foothills, even down south towards Fresno. The incentives that I mentioned, we have a few different ones. We offer a van pool voucher program. So any van pool that signs up with us, and these are for those folks that are going that kind of over 20-mile distance, we will assist them by providing $200 off the cost of their lease for the van for the first year, and then $100 per month after that for the life of the van. So something to kind of make the barriers to entry a little bit lower, something to help them consider that as a viable option and save them some money. We also offer an emergency ride home program where up to 4 times a year we will pay for someone to get a ride home in a taxi cab, rental car, or using a service like Lyft or Uber in the event of a qualified emergency. One of the things we hear time and time again is people, it's a peace of mind policy. People worry about what if their child gets sick? What if they have unscheduled overtime? What if their ride leaves and they're stuck? So we want to cover those situations so that they don't have to be a barrier for people who are thinking about doing the right thing here. And then I also mentioned about logging trips and earning rewards. So in our system, when you go in and when you track those trips, it renders you eligible for different awards. Right now, to kind of kick things off, anyone who goes in and says, yep, I biked this far today, or I took my carpool this day, we're doing $20, $25 Amazon gift cards. So we've got a few $100s worth of prizes in there that we'll be pulling from for people. And this is something we'll be doing ongoing and tied to the various ways that people are getting around too. So it might be if you're carpooling, you are entered to win a gas card or a really nice car wash, maybe a detailing. If you're biking, we can get you gift certificates for tune-ups, save you things, save on getting a new light set or maybe new pumps or tires or things like that, just to sort of reward people for making the right choices. We also do a variety of employer support services. This is a big component of what we offer, particularly for those large employers who are facing challenges with getting their workforce to work on time and efficiently, with maybe they don't have quite enough parking for all of their employees. And we can come in, work with them to create a smart travel program that fits their needs. Along with that, we'll provide marketing materials, posters, brochures, handouts, website graphics, newsletter articles, kind of a whole variety of tools for them to be able to just have a turnkey solution that they can implement. This also goes hand in hand with many of those large employers are subject to Air District Rule 9410, which is the E-Trip rule, which mandates that large employers put a program in place for their employees to help reduce trips to and from their work site. So a lot of times that can be a little daunting for someone who's never had to address that before, and so we try to position ourselves as a tool for them, as a service for them, so that it doesn't have to be intimidating. We can come and help them out with that. We'll also go on site for events, health and safety fairs, staff meetings. I've been in parking lots and handed out donuts. I've been in refrigerated warehouses and tried to speak Spanish to people. So we run the gamut. It's a really flexible service that we offer. We'll do whatever we need to do to help get people connected with the information and with the tools. We also now have that employer toolkit available online at dibsmyway.com at our new website. So along with this, we have several new strategies that we'll be launching over the next 6 to 12 months. I won't go through all of these, but a few that I think you might be interested in here locally. One is what we're calling the School Champions program. So this will be similar to what we do for carpools now. We'll be launching what we call a school pool program, which is designed to connect parents with one another for purposes of helping them get their kids to and from school. It's vetted, it's safe, the parents are signed up. But the goal is to reduce some of that chaos around pickup and drop off, which if you live near a school, I'm sure you've been caught up in a time or two, and hopefully free up some of those parents to be able to carpool themselves later on. We'll be offering a variety of new educational and marketing tools, webinars, videos, things that we can provide where maybe if we can't physically be on site to reach a person, we can do whatever we can to reach them through other channels. We're doing a lot of that through targeted advertising as well, through social media, through radio, through some of those streaming services that people listen to while they're doing those long drives like Pandora. And then, of course, making sure along the way we're doing surveys, we're doing evaluations, making sure we're spending our funds really wisely and that we're hitting the message. I mentioned dibsmyway.com. This is just a little preview of what the website looks like. You can sign in right directly from there. You can enter your origin and your destination and get those results. It's designed so that people are never really more than 1 or 2 clicks away from either getting the information that they want or getting a hold of a member of our team to help them directly. So with all of that, we have set an initiative that we're calling Go Dibs 2020. It was the catchiest we could come up with. If you can come up with something better, we'll love to hear it. But our goal is to get 1 million smart travel miles logged by the year 2020, which is a nice attainable goal, and it gives us as a traveling community something to work towards that will have a tangible impact on air quality and on improving kind of behavior around how we get around here in town. And when we hit that, we'll have a big party for everybody that we all have to bike or take a bus to, of course. So just a preview of some of the advertising that you might be seeing as we move forward. For being a government program, we have really tried to move things in a very consumer-centric direction, make it very fun, make it engaging for people. This was the feedback we've received through focus groups, through stakeholder interviews, through surveys. So 1 part's carpool, 2 parts karaoke battle. Dibs is like a matchmaker, only better. We'll help match you with carpools, van pools, or commuter transit. Get your buns in gear. This is obviously a more bike-centric one. Again, kind of cheeky, literally in this case, advertising. Give your car a vacation. Dibs Day is all about smart travel. Dibs Day is one of the events that we'll be promoting beginning this next fall. So again, our goal is just to make it fun and make it engaging for people. So a couple of the things that are coming up next. May is National Bike Month. We'll be having a big effort for that. We partner with several of the communities throughout Stanislaus County. I don't know that we've ever done an event at the city here in Riverbank, but it's something we would love to look into. We'll come out and actually we'll have coffee and snacks and t-shirts and bike lights, and anybody that pops by will enter in the prize drawing that we do for the county and give them some goodies as a reward. And then also we are always looking for help in spreading the word. We have 4 people on our team to cover 3 counties, so we'll take any help we can get in helping get the word out about what we do. So if you represent a business or a chamber group or a Rotary group or anything you'd ever like to have a speaker come to, we'd be happy to do that. If you want to sign up, start logging your trips, check it out yourself, we would love to do that as well. And of course, always telling your friends and family. Word of mouth is the easiest way to get ourselves known. With that, I am happy to take any questions that you might have. My contact information is up there on the screen, and then our website and phone number are on the brochure as well. But that is my direct contact information. You'll get me as a real life human. So, And thank you for your time. I appreciate you having us here tonight.
Do you do it on the honor system? Is it based on the honor system?
It is mostly honor system. We figure if you're willing to go in there and put the effort in into creating the profile and logging the trip, and which we've tried to make easy, but if you're willing to do it, we'll credit you. We've only had once in the almost 5 years I've been with this program, once where we drew a prize for someone who hadn't actually ended up biking. They said they were going to and then didn't, and they immediately confess every time. They say, "Oh no, I feel so bad. I didn't do it. Give it to someone else." So people self-identify pretty well too.
I can see the intent, but what is the benefit actually to the city that you're offering?
With the program overall,
Yeah, because it seemed like we're logging in miles on a website, but I mean, is there like a pickup location? Is there like some type of fixed area where these commuting activities will take place? Like if people are commuting, say you say commuting, if you even going from here to Modesto,
Yep.
is a commute.
Yep.
So where is this something like Uber where you just make a phone call or you just get online and it pops up?
so we're not actually a service provider. They do a much better job of doing that than we ever could. So we are integrating with them. So we work really closely with Max and with Start, as well as we're in conversation with Lyft and Uber to see what kind of services they can offer. Our overall goal is to get cars off the road. That's why we were founded in the 70s, and the mission still kind of is there. So overall, the more we can do that, the better the air quality is here in town, the impacts are less on your roadways. With things like logging the trip too, that gives us a lot of data that we can then provide to folks like the transit providers and look at, say, hey, we have a ton of people that are coming from Riverbank and going to Oakdale. Maybe it's worth looking at establishing some kind of service there again.
So you maintain a database so that information can be retrieved at a later time?
Yes. Yeah. So we do what we can to take the information and make sure it's valuable to our stakeholders and our constituents too.
Where does the funding come for your?
It's Congestion Mitigation Air Quality, which is a federal grant that we receive. CMAQ is the short version because we love our acronyms.
How long has this been in existence?
The program was originally founded with a specific focus on just carpooling in the late 1970s when there was a resource crisis, and then sort of languished for a long time until I would say the last 10 years or so when we've tried to kind of bring it back, and then in the last year or so really kind of keep up with the Joneses and capitalize on the technologies that are available now that weren't there 10 years ago.
Available to come out and do a one-on-one to businesses?
Absolutely. Yep. My favorite thing. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Carrie.
And for everybody else, there's Post-its and buttons and brochures back there too. So you get goodies too.
All right, presentation's done, so we're going to move over to item public hearing. We're going to open up to the public hearing now. So we do that. Item 4.1, a development agreement. Am I doing this right? Item 4.1, development agreement, number 01-2015, resolution 2017-006, Hayes 4, Phase 1, tentative map. And then we've got the project description.
Okay. The project consists of a development agreement to clarify the original conditions of map approval specific to Phase 1, extend the map life, and set forth criteria for the ultimate development of a future paseo between Klaus Road and Central Avenue. The project is comprised of 9.36 acres and would result in 43 to 45 single-family detached residential lots of about 5,000 square feet for an overall density between 4.59 and 4.801 dwelling units per acre. 3 storm drainage park basins to be known as a central paseo, associated street, sewer, water, and storm drainage improvements. The project has a general plan land use designation of low-density residential and is zoned planned development. The proposed project is bounded by Klaus Road and Central Avenue to the east, south of California Avenue. APN 062-022-019 and 022. Pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, an initial study has been prepared by the lead agency, City of Riverbank. This initial study has been circulated to the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, OPR, for consultation with other responsible agencies as SCH number 201-609-2001. The review period for the initial study closed on September 30th, 2016, and all comments received have been incorporated into the revised initial study presented in public hearing. Based on the initial study, it has been determined that the proposed project would not have a significant effect on the environment. Excuse me. I seem to have a frog in my throat. Tonight's presentation will be by John Anderson of J.B. Anderson and Associates.
Thanks, Donna. Members of the Planning Commission, John Anderson, J.B. Anderson Land Use Planning, contract planner with the City of Riverbank here tonight. My physical address for my business is 139 South Stockton in Ripon, California. So I'm pleased to present this document to you guys tonight. It's a culmination of many, many hours of work, a lot of give and take, a lot of communication between the city staff and also the project proponents who are in the audience. You've got the Hayes family as well as Al Tosky, their project engineer. What's important to note, and I'll go through a PowerPoint presentation here in a minute, is that this is very similar to the development agreement that you guys considered a couple months ago. That was actually phase 2 of the Hayes development, and that was a piece of property that's actually owned or controlled by Mark Wilbur. So back in the 05-06 time frame, both of these properties, both phase 1 and phase 2, were a controlling interest of Hayes development. So, and they were processed concurrently. Then, of course, we had the downturn in the economy. Several things happened, and what ended up happening as a result is the Hayes family retained ownership of phase 1, lost ownership of phase 2, and that's why they need to be separated. Many of the actions taken by the City of Riverbank, combined the two together. So we had to methodically, separate out the conditions to make sure they were very specific to each phase. There was a lot of things that had occurred, in the field. For example, a water line, as part of a city project, was built in Central Avenue. That water line benefits this property. It also benefits phase 2, but it's an existing condition. So because it's there, this development doesn't have to go out and install it. So it really becomes a moot point, but it's a condition that needed to be eliminated from this entitlement. There was a sewer line extension obligation that needed to happen. That sewer line actually was installed by the affordable housing apartment project that you're seeing under construction right now on Claus. So again, another clarification that the line's in, we have to extend it south along Claus, but they don't need to worry about the sewer line extension across Claus because it's already been accomplished. So having said that and describing the need to to separate out these two projects and to clarify the conditions, it was important for us from a staffing perspective to come up with a mechanism that clearly would articulate all these changes, because really the map in and of itself isn't changing. A few minor modifications that I'll talk about, but basically it's the same lot configuration, same street configuration. The proposal that they had way back when was for a central paseo, which is what's being presented today. The paseo has actually a couple different functions. First function is for storm drain, quite frankly. They need to maintain on-site storm drain to the best of their ability, and that system has had a couple different versions of it, but currently the version that's being presented tonight is the one they wish to move forward with. and that paseo also provides some type of a park amenity. And the idea is that park amenity would ultimately extend beyond Central Avenue towards a piece of property that the city of Riverbank currently owns at Eleanor in Kentucky. I mean, that's kind of a bigger, broad brush approach to what we do with this paseo long term. But again, that was part of the original approvals, and we're not really in a position to kind of futz with that at this point. So, after going over that overview, development agreement again is to clarify conditions of the tentative map. It's to add map life. We've suggested that they would be eligible for an additional 5 years, which is exactly what we offered for Phase 2 for Mr. Mark Wilbur. And then, of course, clearly to separate the obligations between the two phases, Phases 1 and 2. Again, the original project was approved back in 2004. It was an application submitted in 2004, ultimately approved by City Council in 2005. And then we had a couple different modifications, the last of which occurred back in 2007. The original project, both Phases 1 and 2, was to create 91 single-family lots, and then the 2 phases that I've described. The phases, which this is a map that you've seen as part of the Mark Wilbur project, included Phase 1 and Phase 2. Phase 1 was the property in question for tonight's discussion, and that's the property between Claus and Central. Phase 2 is the property at the corner. It would be the southwest corner of California and Central. And again, that development agreement has already been considered by you folks. From an aerial standpoint, where in the world are we? We're on the east side of Riverbank, just south of the high school. Again, the site specifically is illustrated here. Currently kind of ranchette type development. It's kind of been in that state for quite some time. This is actually an older aerial because the apartment project is located just to the north here, and it is nearing completion. A couple of the buildings are close to being completed, and I suspect probably within the next couple of months they'll be asking for some type of certificate of occupancy. So Phase 1 had a couple things presented. One is that at one point, this is not working. Oh, at one point, this residential subdivision project was going to be connected with an age-restricted housing project to the south at the corner of Kentucky and Claus. Well, this project hasn't moved forward, and I think probably has expired or is near expiration. The original plan had its primary access point through the Hayes 1 project. So that access point is part of this proposal, part of this development agreement being considered, would eliminate that access point. So this project then would have its own access off of Kentucky, secondary access probably off of Claus whenever it was to develop, and then returns that space that was reserved for that access point as an additional lot. So we thought that was very reasonable. Thought it was a pretty strange condition to have one project, have primary access through another project, because it all has to do with timing and which developments occur first and that type of thing. So that's an easy request for us to recommend to you for approval. The other is that there will be a connection point here between Phase 2 and Phase 1. That's consistent. That's not being terminated. Both projects will be able to, from a circulation standpoint, flow amongst themselves, which is good. The original plan had another access point to the south, and quite frankly, what we've seen sometimes with these through streets is they create kind of a traffic nightmare for the neighborhood. So there's that issue. The other is that the development of this property is uncertain, and at this point we're not really sure when or by what means that property might develop. It's residentially zoned and designated, certainly, but we don't have a current map being processed. So I asked the project proponents, because they would like to see this land returned to them as additional lots, to give us an idea of how that property might be able to be developed So we're not limiting the options for this property in the future when and if the property owner feels it's appropriate to process a subdivision map of a residential nature. So that's what this exhibit demonstrates, and again, staff approves or supports what's being presented here and returning those lots to developable lots within phase 1. Here's kind of a blow up of what we're talking about. The paseos, again, are made up of 3 separate basins. It actually says basin 2, 3, and 4. Basin 1 is up here with phase 2. So it's actually 3 basins within phase 1, basin 1, basin 2, and then basin 3. And then the final design on these paseos will be subject to planning and Parks and Recreation approval. So what we have is kind of just a linear design, some schematics of what it might look like in cross-section. Those are important because, again, this serves for storm drain purposes, and it's necessary for the project engineer to be able to count on and to plan for what space he has available for stormwater runoff to accommodate this project. So again, it's standard 5,000 square foot lot project through the PD, which was originally approved, which Donna mentioned previously. We have a central paseo parkway through the middle of the subdivision, which has 2 purposes. Streets are designed to accommodate our new city standards, including opportunities for low impact development designs. And I've already described the 3 additional lots that they're suggesting as part of their mapping effort, and why that's important based on, today's standards. So, and here's kind of the connection point that I was talking about again between phases 1 and 2. This is the park storm drain basin that phase 1 will be building, and then this is the connection point between phase 1 and 2. This connection point south to a yet to be presented project will be proposed to be eliminated, and then of course then we basically have your internal flow as part of the project. This is more details of the paseo, and then anytime we go through a project approval, we're required to make sure that it complies with the general plan policies related to designs and whatnot. The architecture that will ultimately be presented with this project will need to meet the city's architectural standards as part of the general plan, and that's a condition as part of the consolidated conditions for this development agreement. Because the original project was approved back in 05 and again in 07, it had been some time, so staff felt it was appropriate in light of the fact that we're introducing a new project, a development agreement, that we go through a new CEQA process. We filed with the state an initial study. That initial study reviewed, as Donna has suggested, concluded September 30th of 16, and comments that were presented at that point were folded into a revised initial study to support a negative declaration for this project, meaning that there's not an environmental impact to the community as a result of this development agreement. Again, it's a technical cleanup. The project proponents have already agreed and are included in the CFD that we created for street lighting, road maintenance, storm drain maintenance, common area landscaping, and police services. So this property has already complied with that condition. So after having said that, we're recommending that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council. The City Council approve the development agreement as presented and allow the project proponent to move forward with the consolidated conditions, allow them to build up to 45 lots as presented in this revised tentative map, and allow them the additional time on the tentative map as presented in the terms of the development agreement. So it's a mouthful, but it's the second one you guys have seen. It's pretty straightforward, but it is taken a while to get to this point, I can guarantee you that. So are there any questions?
Why you need the extra time? because it took so long?
Well, no, the extra time is more of a function of the economy, I would suggest. I mean, you had on your agenda tonight a 2-year extension for one of the Diamond Bar projects. The original approval was for 2 years, and that was in a better economic time than the project that we're referring to here, and then we've just granted them another 2-year extension. So that's 4 years. So, 5-year extension in my mind is not something that's out of the ordinary, especially for a project like this in light of what's going on with the economy and some of the pieces of legislation that's being considered by the state of California related to prevailing wage. That's a big issue on a lot of people's minds. So, and time doesn't cure all, but certainly gives them the opportunity to either build this project or market it to others.
Questions?
So the time period that we're talking about is from now for 5 years. That's to build the whole project and be done with it? That's the
Right.
plan?
Well, the way the Subdivision Map Act works is that you get a time frame to record a final map, once your final approval has occurred. So in this case, because we're suggesting a development agreement has to go to City Council for action. City Council then, and the action that they take is an ordinance. When the ordinance becomes effective, that's when that time clock starts ticking, is 5 years. So they have 5 years, not to build out the project, but to record a final map. There's different ways that property owners can move forward with a final map. For example, the project that Mark Wilbur is working with Diamond Bar West, he's chosen not to record a final map, but instead to physically install all the improvements that are required to complete the final map, and then once that's been accomplished, then record a final map, afterwards. The other instrument that a developer can do is they can post a bond, a security bond for the value of the improvements that are necessary to be installed as part of this project. So what am I saying there is the value of the improvements for the curb, gutter, sidewalk, the storm drain system, everything that would make those individual lots whole. And they post a bond. Normally it's an 18-month period. And during that 18-month period, and they record a map. And then during that 18-month period, they physically make all the improvements that are necessary. And then once that happens, then those bonds then are returned back to the developer, who are in turn replaced to the financial institution that they use to secure the bonds.
No building starts actually until they do the map.
Well, Mark Wilbur's project is probably a good example. The city worked with Mark Wilbur while he's making the physical improvements out there to allow him to start model construction. So that's what you see out there with that project. So the city has allowed him, even though a map hasn't recorded, to allow him to start working on the model homes on that project. So when the map records, his marketing phase is complete, and then he can start selling lots and homes on the properties that now are officially recorded.
Back to the neighborhood, if we say you got 5 years to finish this and it doesn't even start until you.
Well, it's 2017, and this is a project that was initially approved back in 2005. So it's been, quite some time. I mean, the neighborhood is aware that this property is going to develop at some time when the economy would support it. So, and the level of development is consistent with the general plan, and it's consistent with prior approvals that this city has granted to this property owner.
Who's going to maintain the property for that period of time? I mean, you have weeds and things like that, and it's going to come and deface the area after a while if we sit here and just wait and somebody doesn't keep it.
So just like with any piece of property, the property, maintenance obligations are always the responsibility of the record property owner. And in this case, it's the Hayes folks that are responsible for maintaining the property because they own it. So unless they sell it to someone else, whoever is the record title owner is responsible for maintenance. So And they're here in the audience, so if there's a specific question that you have, you can ask
So
them.
I have a couple of concerns, and they don't have to do with the financing and all that, but they have to do with the design. Because I actually live in Crossroads right now, and what I like about it is when I go out for a walk at night, I can go all different kinds of ways. I don't have to walk out to the main street and walk down. And I look at this, and the bottom right-hand corner is a
I guess if we can go back to
maybe.
the map.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Does that help you?
Yeah, that one
This
right
one?
there.
Okay.
And what I look at in the lower right-hand corner is it's a
Okay.
conceptual plan.
Yep.
What it has is one in and one out. So if you live there, you go in and you go out. There's no way that you can get anywhere if you're walking, you're riding a bike, or that you can get inside of the rest of the area without going out to the main streets. When you look at the bottom left, now that is expired, so that may not be what happens there, but right now it shows possibly two entrances, entrance and exit, two of them. And one is down at the bottom, and one is to the left. So going into there, if you want to go out to the street and ride your bike, or you want to go out and go for a walk, again, you have to go to a main street. And then you look at this proposal, and it looks like a drag race. You have, and I'm not saying there's a lot of changes to be made there, but there's two streets going, one going one way, one going the other, but it's a straight line from one street to the other.
Yeah.
And I get concerned about that. There is an exit into the phase 2, which is going to be there. But if you're living in any of those houses in this new development, you're going, just as we see in Crossroads, if you have a main street, you see fast traffic. And that's to the front of those houses. It's not to the rear. And so I have a concern with that. And as it shows right now, one thing I'd hate to do is I'd hate to lose lot 45 and 46, because that would give an entrance to that one development down below in the lower right. And I hate to see the loss of lot 43, because it gives an entrance between this development and that lower left-hand development. And I'd like to see a connection, because I'd hate to be stuck in one of those two and not be able to get to the rest of the area.
So what's being discussed here is connectivity. And it's always an issue that we as land use planners deal with on a more global area. And I'm glad you raised this issue up, Commissioner Tobacco, because this is an issue, and you're absolutely correct. And in looking at proposed creation of those lots 45 and 46, we asked the developer to give us an idea what that might develop like in the property to the south, in that corner, to the right corner, and you're right. I mean, it would be isolated. It'd be on its own. There wouldn't be any street connections. However, the new street standards that we have includes a fairly large area along Central and along Kentucky and along the main roads, including California, where you have, and I wish I don't have a cross section of this, but if you can imagine a parkway strip, so you have your street, you have curb, gutter, and sidewalk. You have a 9-foot landscape area, and then you have a 5-foot sidewalk. So what you have here is you have the ability along Central Avenue, for example, to use that sidewalk connection between this property on the right that you referenced and phase 1 and ultimately on to phase 2. It's not a vehicular connection for sure, but it would be a pedestrian connection between the two, not vehicular. You're absolutely correct.
So you're saying, I'm sorry, you're saying it's out on the main road, that there are bike paths. Eventually, When everything gets developed out there, you'll have bike paths going
In,
up and down.
in Central Avenue, we've designed for a Class 2 bikeway as part of that roadway section. In addition to that, there's a separated sidewalk, 9-foot landscape area, and that landscape area is there to help meet some of the storm drain obligations with low-impact developments. That's why it's there. And that provides, the connection between the two. But vehicles, no, you're right. You're absolutely correct. There will be no vehicular connection. Now, as it relates to the property in the lower left, I don't know what we're going to end up with in the end of the day with that property. I've dealt with a couple different developers on that property, and I think Donna has as well. And I can presume that it's going to be something that's much different than what we've ever seen on that piece of property. And you're right, there wouldn't be a vehicular connection, but definitely for bicycles and for peds, the connection is on the streets, on Claus, on Kentucky, on Central. Yes.
If I might add, since we do not have any active maps right now on those two lower pieces, there would be an opportunity in the future to have a connectivity between those two as well. These are both concepts. It doesn't have to come in and make a sharp 90-degree angle and go out again. They could move straight through to the other parcel as well.
Because my question is on our general plan, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you, on our general plan, on our smart growth and green environment and forest creating neighborly environments, and I think that's our focus. Can we say that that's a neighborly environment? Because it looks like the back end of houses it's like we got 1, 2, 3. We're going to have like 4 different communities right there. Simply because there's no, what the commissioner was mentioning, there's no way for any of those communities to interact or communicate with each other as far as getting. See, like if I have a neighbor that lives around the corner from me, I want to be able to get to the neighbor around the corner from me without having to go all the way to the end of the main street, find a way to come in and come around. And emergency vehicles, I only see just one ingress and egress there. So that I'm not sure if we thought if that's going to be an issue or not, seeing that we only got that one, and we don't know what phase 2 is going to look like because we don't know how that's going to mesh together.
So the issue is phase 2 and phase 1 are connected, both from vehicular standpoint and also from a pedestrian standpoint and bicycles. The age-restricted housing project at the corner of Claus in Kentucky, it's an expired project, so we're not sure what really we're going to end up with there. And the property, the right-hand corner there at Kentucky and Central, we're not sure what's going to happen, with that property as well. If the commission feels strongly about this, then the recommendation can be made to the council that, that one or all of these proposed lots that are being suggested, not be allowed. That's certainly the case. Now, the design of this paseo and the orientation of the lots with respect to this phase as well as phase 2, when we started working with this project, is an approved, valid map. So, from that standpoint, the property owner has, entitlement value, they have entitlement value that they believe has been entrusted to them by the city with this type of a layout. So that's why we really haven't messed with it. It's not, a quote unquote, new project that we'd like to get in and come up with a new redesign on. The 2 exceptions to that are the 3 lots that we've discussed, going to the south.
Something has expired.
And this map was held in suspension because of this application that's pending, which included a map extension as part of the entitlement.
I have a question for staff. In reading your report of the past, it said that there was original resolution 2005-105 that, or I'm sorry, the original presentation had 42 lots. And then the resolution 2005 all of a sudden had 47 lots. And there wasn't, it seemed like in your report, it wasn't determined how it changed. Does that make sense?
We're not sure, in all honesty, whether that was a typo or where that number came from, quite frankly.
Between the two, the change
Between the
between
two.
the two. Okay.
Between the two. The maps that we found in the file were illustrated 42 lots. The resolution suggested 47. So that's another area, quite frankly, a technical area that we need to clarify as part of this action. You know, how many lots are we dealing with? Yeah, very important. Okay. The applicant engineer is in the counter as well.
Just to kind of piggyback on what's being said on the connectivity, I know there's a current lot here in town that it was empty for quite some time. There was, could you go back to the, I believe it's the fourth,
What am I looking for?
go back two more. Right there.
Okay.
The, where the connectivity was going to be to those future sites on the bottom south there.
So this connectivity here,
Yeah.
and this connectivity here.
There's
yes.
a lot here in town that's not going to happen. But they earmarked it. They actually did that. And with this new project, they're actually putting a gate there and kind of a walkway to connect with the other folks. So it allows a little curvature, I guess, a little bit of ingress to connect with the other folks and vice versa. And I think in terms of seeing what's happening here with this other lot, it might be something to consider maybe perhaps on this. It's on Don Street or something like that?
I think you were thinking of the Ward Villas that
Yeah,
you
correct.
saw the first part of last year. And the walkway that you're talking about is actually an emergency vehicle access because they only have one way in and one way out.
Correct.
So it does not even have the connectivity that this piece has.
But it has the road to where two-way car, but then it stops there.
Correct, that's
on the-
fire department access.
Correct. And then from that point forward, it's more of a gate. It's going to be some type of a gate or something.
Correct. We had a petition from that neighborhood that they didn't want the connectivity through there.
Oh, okay. Did not want the connectivity.
Did not, because their children were playing on that closed area.
Correct.
Mhm.
Okay.
So one more point of clarification before I leave. Commissioner King raised a very important point about map life in 5 years. It's 5 years to recording the map, which means there's no time frame. If the map records, there's no time frame upon which the actual individual houses would be built. Okay, so I want to make sure that's a clear distinction. So if they record a final map and bond for the improvements, then typically they have 18 months to complete the streets and all the things associated with that, so you have a lot that can be built upon, right? And then once that happens, then the lot, is created, it's legal, and that lot can be built on at any time, at any time, or not. Okay?
Thank you.
Yes.
So we could open the public hearing and
Got it. So we're going to we're going to close the, what do you call it? Oh, the public, we're going to open up to the public hearing for any public comments at this time. How about that? So we have I guess the developers here or the property owners. Anybody want to speak in behalf of this particular item on the agenda? I think it's a good idea.
Good evening. My name is Al Toski Civil Engineering. We don't really have any, we've been round and round with John on this for a couple of years now, and I think we've got a plan that we're both happy with, and it's a good solution to a lot of changes that have happened. I started on this project when my beard was black. And actually we started the annexation in 2003, so To one of your questions as to whether the property is going to develop and be maintained, we've been at that for, 14 years now, and we'll continue to push it through until it finally does develop. Mark Wilbur is starting on the northern half of that as soon as he can. We'll start right after that. Doesn't make sense for us to go out and create an island of lots ahead of him, monetarily, construction-wise, and otherwise. This revision, one of many revisions, does accommodate new street widths. The city has updated their standards, as John had mentioned, and California, Kentucky, Central all have bike lanes and wide planter strips along the back of walk or between the walk and the curb to allow on all those collector streets, those are called collector streets, as opposed to the internal residential streets. The concept that the city has is that those collector streets collect the pedestrian, the vehicular, and the bicycle traffic. The bicycles will be separate from the vehicles. The pedestrians will be separate from the bicycles and the vehicular traffic. And that was one of the revisions we made by widening what we had before, 7 feet, I believe it is, on either side, those streets to accommodate that circulation. The other thing about extending the streets to the south from a vehicular circulation pattern, it really didn't work so good. I mean, it looks good now, but when you try to build something to the south there, you really want the circulation to come off of Kentucky. So we changed those at the request of the city, and like I say, and back and where you asked, somebody asked where the 42 to 47 to 45 lots came from. Well, we had several gyrations of this map, and the first map, the 42 lots, counted it as 42 lots because there was a double lot that's now 2 lots that was once a well site, and there was no stub street to the north there. They were 2 separate, so that accounted for another one. So like I said, we had several gyrations of this map and several different street width standards to deal with, and that's why the lot count has jumped around. The basic geometric pattern is the same, 5,000 square foot lots along a Paseo. That's always been the concept. So, and we're here for any other questions if you have any. Thank you.
What's the estimated value per lot?
I can't answer that. I can't answer that.
Who can answer that one then? Is there anybody here that can answer that?
In general, lots are running about 100 to 150,000.
In this area? Okay. Thank you. Do we have the property owners in the audience? Yeah. All right. Anybody? All righty. So you guys want to say anything?
No, he's with us too, Al.
Okay, great. So we're going to close the floor to the public hearing. If there's nothing else to be said, obviously there's not. We're going to close, and then we're going to open it back up to. We're going to close and open it back up for discussion.
As we get older, we have the what would I say, the opportunity to join a group called AARP. And AARP, if you don't know it and you're not a member, you should join, has a new program out called Livable Communities. And they're trying to help us out as we grow older to have communities that we can stay in all of our life. One of the things, two of the top things in their list of things to make livable communities is parks and where you can walk around, access around, not parts of developments that are all by themselves and you have to go to an outer street to go somewhere. should be able to walk around your area. And so I still have to stay back with, I would like to keep the access to the south, the two accesses, because that gives an opportunity for whoever wants to go in there to join this community that's north of them.
Any other questions? Okay, so we close for questions, up for a vote. Anybody want to make a nomination?
I'll make a motion that we approve item 4.1, developmental agreement number 01-2015, Hayes 4, Phase 1 tentative map, as it's written currently.
I second it.
Chair McKinney?
Yes.
Vice Chair King?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart? Commissioner Tabacco?
I have a clarification. Does that mean, that motion, does that mean we're accepting it as it was submitted with those 3 lots, not lots anymore?
The 3 lots remain lots, correct? Not the connectivity.
Okay, no.
Commissioner Villapuzua?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1. It's okay.
All right. Moving on to item 4.2, Galaxy Theater LLC, conditional use permit number 01-2017, resolution 2017-007, project description. Staff.
Okay. All right, this is a conditional use, a modification to conditional use permit. A request to modify CUP 01-2013, resolution 2013-006 to license type 4 on-sale eating place and serve hard mixed spirit drinks. Property located at 2525 Patterson Road, APN 075-008-029, within a C2 General Commercial Zoning District. Okay, as I just mentioned, Galaxy Cinemas Riverbank is seeking a modification to the use permit to add hard spirits to their alcohol permit for slushy daiquiris and margaritas. The project location is 2525 Patterson Road. You can see the theater here and the IMAX and all their parking. In September of 2008, the city's planning commission approved a conditional use permit for the on-site sale of alcohol, but the operator chose at that time not to implement the use, and the CUP expired in 12 months. They then came back in 2013 and asked to serve wine and beer. And then at the regular meeting of July, and the cup sizes were limited at that point to 6 ounces for the wine and 12 ounces for the beer. At the regular meeting of July 21st, 2015, the Planning Commission voted to modify that, and cup sizes for beer were removed. I believe I had mentioned in the staff report that the vote allowed them to start serving in 20-ounce cup size, which is correct, but the cup sizes were removed from the conditional use permit. So in order to grant or modify any use permit, the applicant must introduce evidence in support of the application sufficient to enable you to find that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the use or building will not, in those circumstances, be detrimental to health, safety, and general welfare of persons in the neighborhood, or to the property and improvements in the neighborhood and general welfare of the city. So in this case, I did speak with the police chief for Riverbank, and was told that they have not had any alcohol-related incidents since the cup size was removed. I think there was one incident where they did come on site and take somebody who had shown up at the theater already under the influence. Also, in speaking with ABC, we wanted to ensure that to go from a 41 type license to a 47 type license, that their food menu would qualify for that, and it does in fact. As you can see, that not only do they have the traditional sodas and popcorns, but they have pretzels, they have pizzas. There's some more ices and popcorn. They have premium sausages, footlongs, pretzels, and White Castle sliders, as well as beer and wine. So they have a well-rounded menu, and ABC is absolutely fine with that as an eating establishment. So staff recommends that you determine that the applicant has submitted sufficient evidence for the Planning Commission to consider adding the hard spirits. Number one, they've been adding to their menu in steps, not only from the alcohol point of view, but from a food point of view. And so they've developed a well-rounded menu. And then according to the police department, there have not been any alcohol-related incidences. Therefore, we recommend that you give them the opportunity to add additional drinks to the menu for those that aren't interested in beer and wine. I'd be happy to take any questions from you, but we also have the applicant in the audience as well.
Now, you answered the point about any issues, so that was going to be the key question I had.
Kind of figured that.
So we're going to open it to public, to the floor.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission. It's my pleasure, Rich Homer, 2116 Park Ridge Drive, Riverbank, California. My pleasure to be here this evening. I have some things I want to pass out. We have a new general manager now, Nathan Paul, who'd been with us for, 7 or 8 years, has left. He moved up back to Washington, which is his home state. We have Donnie Guile, who's our new general manager. He'll be talking to you a little bit later. So I'd like to pass out his card, so you do have one. Secondly, I do want to pass sort of an up-to-date menu. And thirdly, we get letters sometimes, and this is really sort of a nice letter from probably a 10 or 11-year-old that we got saying how much he enjoys our theater experience. So I always like to see those. Those are very important. Since I was here last, I think last time I was here, we were talking about the IMAX sign. We have now opened the IMAX, and it's been enthusiastically received by people not only in Riverbank, but outside of Riverbank. We've also added 100 parking spaces. We purchased the property next to the orthodontist and have put in additional parking spaces to meet the larger crowds. The IMAX theater itself has really added another dimension to the theater. You normally don't see IMAX theaters except in metropolitan areas. And for a city of 25,000 to have an IMAX theater is an incredible thing. And with that, we've drawn people from as far away as Merced, Tracy, a lot of places that normally would not come to Riverbank. And to me, there's always, when you draw people to Riverbank, there's the opportunity of them to get gas, to stop at a store, to go to Target, to whatever. But those opportunities I always like. However, like anything, our competition continues increasing their amenities for individuals attending their theaters. Both Regal Theater, both Brendan and Regal Theaters now do serve beer and wine. And Regal Theater has luxury seating. It's not as nice as ours, but they do have that. And Brendan Theaters will be doing that shortly. Also, one of our biggest competitors, AMC, which has, I think, 2,000 theaters nationwide. They're in Manteca, but they're still close. And have they put in a luxury theater? No. They have not yet put in luxury. That's the one by Bass Pro Shop. The State Theater does serve spirits. You can get a salty dog or a margarita there. I think they come in cans. I don't remember, but they do serve spirits. And to continue, as we believe, as a premier cinema experience, not only in Stanislaus County and beyond, we must continue to be creative in our selection of the service in order to make this distinction. And later on, Donnie will be talking about some of these distinctions that have occurred. What we're proposing is that resolution number, like Donna mentioned, 2015-18 be modified. The modification would be for condition number 2. Currently, the condition states of the State of California Alcoholic Beverage Control License 41, on-site sale of beer and wine. It is our desire to modify this to Type 47 license, which permits the serving of beer, wine, and spirits. Presently, there are 6 Galaxy theaters in the chain that do serve spirits. The format used is very similar to how we serve an icy. You know, if you go and get an icy there, you know, you get a bubblegum icy, a root beer icy, a Coke icy, and in the machine itself. Now, what this will be is you can get a strawberry margarita, you can get a daiquiri, you can get a regular margarita. We'll have 3 or 4, and we'll switch them out from time to time. The drink measures are the drinks are pre-measured. The alcohol in them are no more than you would get in a 16-ounce beer. It is within the reasonable limits, and also, once again, it's served in a distinctive cup to recognize that from other beverages sold there. There is no plan whatsoever in our theater to have a bartender mixing drinks. That's just something we're unable to do and really have no desire to do that. Our lines sometimes are long enough, and we want to get people into the theater. With this, you just pull it, and it's pre-mixed, pre-measured, and it's a very simple process. As previously noted, our mantra has been to ensure our patrons drink responsibly. I mean, that is really a big deal with us. And we pride ourselves in having no alcohol-related incidences in any of our theaters. We have 15 theaters right now. Recently, I talked to Police Chief Aaron Kiley, and he's pleased with what was occurring, and also he was supportive of serving spirits in the manner we're talking about serving them in. Also talked to the new city manager, Sean Scott, about this, and he too was supportive of this. We therefore formally request that the modification be approved by the Planning Commission. Once this is done, we still have to purchase a 47 license and also go through ABC. Our desire would be to have that available probably sometime in summer. I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if you'd like, I can introduce Donnie Guile. He has some other things he'd like to add to our presentation tonight.
Any questions? Okay.
Well, let me introduce Donnie then. Donnie?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Donnie Guile, General Manager for Galaxy 2525 Patterson Road. Sorry if I'm fidgeting. I made the mistake of running the half marathon, and my body's reminding me that I shouldn't. A little bit about me. First, thank you for Riverbank in supporting our, the community and supporting our business. A little about me. I've been in the restaurant and for about 20 years industry. Came over a while ago to the movie industry, and I still have that understanding of restaurant, food, liquor, and the impact to, our communities when we have to worry about what we do and what we provide and service for the amount of alcohol. Since I took over, we revamped the training program for alcohol. I started in my theater, and it has now gone company-wide. Every employee must be 21 older, of course, by law to serve it, but they all have to have a national ServSafe certification through ABC. that's on file at all times to work behind the bar. They also have an accountability sheet and testing by myself to ensure that there is no gray area for any of those hiccups that happen. If you've ever been to my theater, you will find that regardless of age, you will be carded. If you do not have your alcohol or your ID, you will not be served regardless of age. So that's kind of one of the things we build our pride on, is making sure that we are complying and making sure we are to the best to the community. I provided to, of course, the food menu. Some of the things we did add, as opposed to the pictures that we had, is we added coffee. We did not have coffee prior, but we are adding coffee back on. I've added a couple more starch items for consumption to go with beer, and that's wedge fries, churros, chicken tenders, chicken wings, and of course I'm continuing to add as I research more things for the future. One of the things I always like to pride is that if you ever go to a movie theater in LA, New York, you will find that they are all serving full service is the future. You could get a burger delivered to you while you're sitting in a nice little cove of theaters. They even do martinis, shaken at your site while you're sitting. It's kind of, the future is kind of changing for the movie industry, so it's kind of amazing. One thing we pride about is, we have the community of Riverbank, and it's a small embedded community. When I first came to the movie theater and I saw the staggering numbers, I was shocked. I knew that I always went to Regal or I went to AMC. It was more about what movie provided. At one point, we did not show certain films, but now we've gone and opened up all the films, so we now get everything, Lionsgate, things like that, so we've opened up the opportunity. And in doing so, we have a market value, or no market shares is the AMC by Bass Pro Shop. We have Brendan downtown. We have Regal, and then we compare ourselves to Regal Turlock. And one thing I pride is there's two developments for me when I take over as management. Is one is to provide the best service, the best hospitality that I can for my theater over anyone else, and at the same time also continue to maintain that Galaxy Movie Theater is the #1 state-of-the-art in the Valley. We provided the letter. I got that letter from the kid today, and it's kind of heartwarming because I think about what I do as providing hospitality. And of course, we all know that starts with cleanliness and things like that and training. And, I reached out to this little kid today and said, you know what, that's amazing. Thank you very much. I invited him for a tour. I want to give him popcorn. I want to treat him like royalty and bring him back, because how many 10-year-olds write a letter to, a business and thanking them? So it's kind of heartwarming for what I do. Galaxy Movie Theater, we talk about numbers and what we're doing. There are over 4,000 theaters across the nation. And when I talk about what impact Riverbank has to community, I think of Galaxy and Riverbank as a symbiote relationship that we take care of each other because of the value of those 4,000 theaters. We talk about numbers. Star Wars, I don't know if any of you went, or the numbers are staggering. The first week of Star Wars across the nation, we were ranked 99th for the week of overall sales, and that's coming from a community of Riverbank. This last following weekend, for Beauty and the Beast, for just the Thursday through Sunday, we were ranked 23rd in the nation. So those are staggering numbers when you talk about communities. And we're competing against AMC, as they stated, has 2,000. We only have 15. And so what we're trying to provide is that I want to maintain that Riverbank Galaxy is going to be giving the great hospitality, still maintain community support, still maintain that we are going to provide a change in the liquor license, but also be mindful of, cognizant of what we do to make sure we're safe for the community and everyone around us. And the change is we may be #1 as it is currently being top performer between Sacramento and LA. When we're talked, I saw a report this morning that one of my fellow GMs at another theater actually was ranked one of the top performing theaters in the nation, and that was prior to me, and kind of gives me a goal for next year as to maintaining that. I'd like to be on that list of top performing theaters across the nation. And we talk about the impact with those kind of staggering numbers, being #1 as we are. It's not about being the best to best. It's about knowing that of those staggering numbers this last weekend, ranked number 23, that is the capacity of my theater of only 44%, which means I still have another 56% of capacity that I can grow. And I think by changing and adding this new liquor amendment, that I'd like to fill that other capacity and get as much as we possibly can to give back to the community for the great futures and great blockbusters that are coming. So again, thank you for tonight, and Galaxy humbly asks for your approval, but thank you very much.
Question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned numbers of sales. You said rank number 23. What's the dollar amount attached to that?
In comparison to, in one weekend, that's works out to about $253,000.
So you're saying that the modification of the liquor license is going to improve or enhance?
I truly agree. I think with an opportunity, as you saw in the food menu, I do have red wines, white wines, draft beers, bottled beers, champagne. I just added mimosas. Staggering number for you. I just did this, found out today. Bottled waters. I just changed up and added a large refrigerator. That's a visual piece for behind my concessions. And we used to sell 93 bottles of water on a weekend. This last weekend for Beauty and the Beast, I sold 1,082 bottles of water. So there's a change in the dynamics of how I perform. I believe that people eat with their eyes. And, and that's the reality of it, is in that I think this is the case is that not everyone wants a beer, not everyone wants a glass of wine, but there are certain movies that tie into a glass of margarita.
Yes, I have a question, kind of a general question. I'm not suggesting you would change what you're saying you're going to do, but if you change your license type to a license type that allows mixed drinks or spirits, does that prohibit you from, say, in a year from now you decided you wanted to have a bar and you wanted to pour drinks? Would you have to make any changes? Would you have to come back before this board? Or does this license type change allow you to serve spirits in any way?
I'm sure that's a condition that you could decide on. I could tell you that speaking to the owners, it's not something they want to do. Like I said, being in the industry that I've been in, the restaurant industry, it is not. There's not a lot of gray area for money value when it comes to ownership and owners about how they want to transition. You would have to create a whole new bar, a whole new atmosphere. It changes the dynamics, and fortunately, we don't want to be considered a bar. I'm here for the family. That's these little kids that write these letters. That's what I do. That's why we do it. It's not about, I'm just asking for something to provide for one more aspect of our industry.
Yeah, the other 6 theaters, and some have been serving spirits for 2 or 3 years. There's been no conversation about doing it any other way.
Yeah, I don't imagine that you would. My question was, would you have to change? Would that license pipe allow that?
You could put that as a condition in the use permit, but I just don't see it happening.
I guess a quick question. Leading up to this here, was there a big demand? Was there feedback that you guys received that prompted this, or like you're stating, other theaters are utilizing it, so just basically the protocol to bring it forward?
What started this mission for me was I started looking at the comparative numbers for the other theaters, and I started seeing that the impact was just astronomical, and when it comes, unfortunately, to financials, and that adding something as simple as a margarita does change the dynamics for per guest, yes.
Yeah.
And that's what it started, and then eventually evolved into speaking to the owners about our mission, and our mission was to provide something just slightly more for our guests without changing the dynamics of the family, experience that we want.
Thank you.
Any other questions? This is for the community. Has staff reached out to the community about this change?
Normally, we just send out a public notice notifying people of this meeting. In this case, and then in the past, when they modified their CUP to remove the beer cup size, we did an additional mailing to them. We reached out in February to let them know that this change was proposed, and so they've had 2 notifications.
There was mailing, I believe, to all residents and businesses within 300 feet, is that correct?
That's correct, and we have not received a phone call, a letter, or no one's come into planning to discuss it.
Also, by requirements, we have posted a very large sign. Also, when we, ABC also has to approve this. So just getting your approval is the first step. Now we have to have ABC's approval. Once again, we would post, ABC holds hearings, and once again, people who are opposed to this can go to a hearing and protest if they don't feel it's in the best interest of the community. ABC does too, yes, yes.
The theater is a family atmosphere, right? Okay. For lack of a better comparison, Chuck E. Cheese is a family environment, right? So, since we're creating a family environment, we're creating an enriched community, family friendly. Modifying to hard liquor in a family environment establishment sort of raises eyebrows as to where our values are. So, and in lieu of, we have no really factual information on how hard liquor has performed in the theater setting. We do have it on the alcohol setting as far as, but not anything on the spirits. And so I think that, that's just my, personally, has it been enough time elapsed since we've approved the change of, since the last change, that we have enough documented information to say that if we move forward to increase liability by changing the form of liquids that we're offering, what is that going to be? What impact is that going to have on the community, right? I haven't heard or seen any type of factual information that supports that.
At our 6 theaters, which do serve spirits and also, I would say, have a family atmosphere, once again, it hasn't really changed. And when you're getting something in an icy like a margarita, everybody I've talked to and said, we're going to have margaritas. They're excited about it. Particularly, I'm not choosing women for this, but it was like, wow, margaritas, that's great. And, I think that's something that is going to attract more people. It's not unusual now. And of course, what you said, Chairman McKinney, is that at Chuck E. Cheese, they do serve alcohol. They do serve beer at Chuck E. Cheese. So it's not, once again,
They don't serve spirits, though.
it's exactly, but the spirits they're serving, as I mentioned in my talk earlier on, the alcohol content is no more than you would have in a beer. So it really is, and plus with price, if someone's coming there to get intoxicated, which we wouldn't allow to happen in the first place, the expense is going to halt that. We're not like the A's. We're not lowering our beer or our alcohol prices. And secondly, I don't think it distracts. Way back when I think I first brought this to your attention, we used to talk about people would sneak in drinks, beers, small bottles of whatever. And the auditoriums where we would find the most cans or bottles were the auditorium where children's movies were playing. It wasn't the R-rated, it wasn't the PG-13, it was the PG or the G movies where we found the most bottles and cans. So,
If I might add, in June, it will be 2 years since you removed the cup size. And in those 2 years, we have not had an incident connected to the theater as far as a DUI or alcoholic-induced fights.
Right, and once again, in talking with Chief Kiley, and it's something we do system-wide, is if there's a problem and we don't feel capable of handling it, whatever it is, we call the police. And so Chief Kiley would be the one who would know if somebody came out there with an alcohol-related incident. And just for that one instance, that's the only thing that's happened.
I just don't want the town, you know, I think it would have been a great idea, or not a great idea, but it would have been a great support if we'd had some type of feedback from the community, because it looks like things are being introduced to them, and at the time that they're aware of it, we've already made decisions on it, and it's there. And the thing you have, they say they never received anything. Because we're making changes to something like that. It's like, you know, where's our family areas where we can go to and not have to, you know, where, you know, the family, you know, the maximum thing they're going to get is beer and wine. Now we don't have the area where now it's almost like a full bar. You know, where do you take a family where, you know, things are limited to family things and not overtaking, okay, we're going to do a family and adult activity all at the same time.
If I might, Chairman, being that I've been in the restaurant industry for so long, to me,
That's the restaurant. We're talking about the theater.
I
We're
understand.
talking about going, sitting a movie. We're talking about taking kids to see popcorn, watch Spider-Man or what have you.
I understand.
Gonna have
I have
cocktail.
I have 5 kids, so I understand the family value of it. But like I said, in the restaurant industry, it's no different than you sitting at night trying to determine where you want to eat. You know, when you sit around and you make that choice as to where you want to eat, you have a choice to go to Texas Roadhouse that has a full bar and, you know, a crazy atmosphere, or you have a choice to go to Tahoe Joe's, who has a slower atmosphere but still has full alcohol. It's no different for me. When I came up with this, you know, concept, it's just a given choice. If we only sold popcorn and candy, and then I had to get a permit to add one more item on the menu, which would be a pizza, I'd have to get a food permit to do so. Adding a margarita for, you know, my value, even for my family, is just getting one more item on the menu that provides one more item for another guest. That is no different for the alcohol content between buying a beer. I have some beers that might have more alcohol content than the actual margarita itself. Like I said, we have no intention of adding a bottle of Jack Daniels behind the bar. That ultimately would make a difference
But
you know,
the
of course.
license would allow you to.
It would be allowed, but you have that right to make an amendment yourself to change it so that we'd have to revisit if we were to do that.
I just see that on a business standpoint, I can understand it. But on a community standpoint, I can see the strain on emergency services, as well as the incitement. Say if we have, you know, we don't, you know, movies come out all the time and their main intent is to incite some type of emotional conflict within the person who's watching the film. That emotional conflict, depending on what it is, incited by something other than beer, another, you know, alcohol, something to excite that, then how do we know that that atmosphere is not going to create an unsafe atmosphere after the show?
I have security on site.
Yeah, I understand security, but we already know somebody under alcohol, regardless of security, they're not them. They're somebody else.
I have a question. Is there a way that we could just modify this and restrict it to, in the wording, restrict it to the slushy type drinks, even if we have to call out the margaritas and the daiquiris? Just make a restriction on those two, just kind of revise the wording.
That can be done. You could even add a condition that should they expand from their proposed use, it has to come back to the Planning Commission.
I think that would probably be more appropriate there. The other would be, we have the CPU on this, right?
Correct.
So again, at any time we could revisit.
Correct.
If we see things out of order or something is at a place, yeah. Okay.
Are we ready for a motion or not motion?
Ready for a motion.
You're going to have to help me with the wording because I would like to move for approval of the conditional use permit number 01-2017. The request to modify the CUP of 01-2013, allowing the serving of hard spirit mixed drinks, but confined or
Limited?
limited, thank you, to just the slushy drinks such as margaritas and daiquiris. Okay?
I second.
Can I ask
think
a
I got
question before we proceed?
No.
It's too late. I don't know what's in these things, margaritas and daiquiris. Did you have plans to do anything else in slushy form? Any other alcohol?
Well, I mean, such things as daiquiris, the drinks you would see, the sort of the fluffy drinks like margaritas, pina colada, daiquiris, what else maybe?
That's pretty much the
Yeah.
scope.
Bl-
When
the
you
blended.
talk about what's in it, we have no option of, there will never be a bottle of alcohol. It is a preformed box, and a bag in a box that comes to us, pre-made. It has a preordained percentage of alcohol in it, so there's never, ever going to be an opportunity for someone to go like, well, I'll give you a little bit more. It will always be a
I
safe side.
understand. I just
Yeah.
wanted to, I didn't want to limit if a daiquiri and a margarita is one thing, but they're saying a pina colada also
More of a,
change it, just so it's just in a slushy form, whatever it is.
I think that's the best way to do it, is just putting icy is actually the term.
It will come out of a machine that looks just like
Like
this
the
Slurpee.
ice,
So
Slurpee
we're
or the icy.
going to close the public hearing, the public floor, and then we're going to open it for roll call vote, right? That's how we supposed to did that. So now
And
we're,
close the public hearing.
so we already, close the
Yeah, you
the
just now,
floor.
yeah.
And now we're going to, we've already did the motion, so now we got to finish.
to the, but we need, it's kind of an amendment to the amendment.
Right,
Okay.
to eliminate
Just the daiquiri or the margarita to just open to the slushy
icy
format.
drinks. He just said the correct term is icy.
Icy drinks.
Icy drinks, right?
Icy made a spirit.
So we good with that, Mr. Attorney? Do we got that worded right?
Be
Okay.
drinks made within an icy machine.
I'll second that.
So you second.
All right, we already have Stewart and
Oh, yeah.
Tobacco on that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. So, Chair McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair King,
Yep.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Tobacco,
Yes.
and Commissioner Villapatois.
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Visit us soon.
All righty. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got to see Kong, so I'll be there.
But it won't be one.
Not this weekend.
Okay, so now we, are your staff ready? You guys ready? Okay, so now we're going to move to item 4.3 of conditional use permit number 05-2007 and business license action on code enforcement case number 2015-0209 for 29 concept resolution 2016-020 revoking CUP and business license and/or resolution 2016-021 CUP and business license project description. Staff.
So, good evening again, and I'm sure this is a project you're already familiar with, having seen it at your last 4 meetings. Okay, so 209 Concepts, an automobile repair and paint business at 6607 Calendar, has been found in violation of zoning code requirements since about 2010, and conditions of approval that were attached to the property's conditional use permit for an auto paint booth. So at your regular meeting of December 20th in 2016, you continued this item so that the business owner had 30 additional days to address outstanding violations. Some of those violations included junk being stored outside, fences being made or covered with metal and wood so you couldn't see through them. The parking lot hadn't had lines in it for a while, so you couldn't even really tell how many parking spaces there were. Cars were required to be kept inside overnight, but they were being left outside. So he was given additional time to the January meeting, was able to clean up some of the infractions, and it was continued to the February meeting so he could continue the last three items, which happened to be some junk stored outside, and then the 24-hour parking limit, and the parking lot lines were the last three items to deal with. And that you gave him until this meeting today to address those outstanding violations. Yeah, and there was a carport on wheels as well that needed to go away. So 209 Concepts was told they must meet the off-street parking requirements for that rear lot of 4 spaces, which they have met. Cars stored more than 24 hours should be stored within the building. During this last month, I stopped in 3 times unannounced before the building was open, before the business was open in the morning, and I did not find any vehicles parked outside, except one morning there was a little dune buggy of some sort parked out there. But as far as pickup trucks and vans and stuff, I did not see any of those parked outside overnight. And then the business owner shall keep the building in good repair and general appearance. He did remove the carport on wheels and did work towards getting rid of some of the junk that was there in that back lot. The desk that was stored up front next to the sink that's now gone, the desk is gone, was hauled away. In the back parking area, on the left you can see a photo from December. There are no lines on the ground. On the right side, you can see a recent photo from last week, and they had striped 3 spaces at this end of the parking lot, and then you can kind of see at the far end there's some blue on the ground, and he was having somebody come out to paint the disabled parking symbol on the pavement. The accessory structure on the left is now gone on the right. On the left, that was from December. There was a lot of junk piled up. On the right, that's actually from this morning. There's a few tables and chairs, which I believe are probably for the workers to take breaks. You can see on the right up against the building. And then past the car that's being worked on that's half in and half out of the building, there is some junk that was stacked up in that corner that has not been removed yet. So all in all, staff feels that he has been working toward cleaning up what we have asked him to do. So therefore, we request that you review the materials that we provided you and either revoke or affirm the conditional use permit. If you affirm it by saying that, yes, he has been working, he has been doing a good job, and is just about finished, then we do ask that you review this item again in 6 to 12 months to assure that he is staying in compliance. Excuse me. And then I'd be happy to answer any questions. And then Mr. Nicholas is here tonight if you have some questions for him as well. I did stop by and speak to him and ask if the property owner would be attending as well. And he assured me he was going to try to get him here tonight, but evidently that did not happen.
Okay, good evening, everybody. The only thing I have to say, well, thank you very much for letting me go through these extensions.
Okay, so now we're gonna close it, and we're gonna open it to the floor, right? What? Oh,
Open the public hearing. Yeah.
open the public hearing. We got that? All righty.
Okay, like I say back again, thank you very much for letting me have these extensions and stuff like that. Concerning what she say about some stuff that I have in there, usually what I do in garbage situation, pile it out because it's plastic coming out and stuff like that, and I cannot put it in the regular garbage. So I have to dump it somewhere else where I load it up in the truck and take it to a dump. You know, so that takes sometimes a week or so to pile it out. I'll put everything in it and dump it where it's supposed to be going. So that's why you guys seen that stuff. Another issue that I have in the process of these things, I even explained to her, you guys say that I have a junky frame and stuff like that. And you guys have a picture right there. It's not a junkie. So that's my work. And sometimes I have to pull that stuff for me so people can see what I do. That's my tackle, put it that way. You know, and I'm gonna have to do that, and I'm gonna have to go ahead and pull it out, and that way people can see it. And I'm gonna have to park a car outside. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm gonna have to park a car whenever a customer comes and pick it up. I'm gonna have to park it in the parking place for them to come pick it up. I'm gonna have to do it because I'm not gonna have you know I'm not gonna put it outside when I have a parking place for the customers. If they come and pick up a car, I'm gonna have to park it in there for them to pick it up. I'm not leaving anything overnight. You know, I'm working with you guys, and thank you for letting me, you know, work with you guys also. So you guys got the last word. That's all I have to say.
What happened with the shed? The
Pardon?
movable shed?
The shares?
No, the
Shed.
the shed, the carport thing. Where is
gone.
it at? It's gone?
Me?
The carport, the thing that was on wheels?
It's gone.
The car, that one is gone. I was my own use. I took it home. I was doing some mechanical work, and I
Okay.
need a truck to go ahead and load it up and get it out of there.
Any questions, commissioners? No questions? Okay, thank you. So we're gonna close the floor and open for roll call vote.
Discussion,
I mean
discussion.
discussion.
I got a couple points, I should say. To staff's position, he's been very satisfactory in working to meet that goal that's been set. It's not going as quickly as possible, but it is working, or it's in progress, as you alluded to. The other is, he brought up a valid point that I've seen many auto body painting shops and so forth. You got to dry your car out, put it out in the sun at times. So how could he mend that, given the space that he has, that it's zoned for that?
Well, we don't have a problem with him moving his cars in and out during the daytime. It's just the 24 hours overnight that everything needs to be within the building. So say he opens up at 7:30, 8 o'clock, paints a car, it's 10 o'clock, he needs to bring it outside and put it in the sun in that back lot, that's perfectly fine. It's only when he closes at 5 o'clock in the evening, if it's still sitting there, that's when it's a problem. He needs
Sitting
to,
inside the yard or on the
in
street?
the yard. It needs to be within the building overnight when the business is closed.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Real quick, the 24 hours, is that by city ordinance,
Done his use permit,
the use permit?
and it's standard practice for the city for this type of business.
I'm just curious, as I drive through other towns, especially right here neighboring Escalon, as we take the main street in, as you take that bend in, there's a little yard there that they do auto body work, and there's cars parked overnight. And again, that's their city, more or less, I guess, accepting that, right? So it's based on a city-to-city basis?
It's city-to-city basis, plus Calendar and, Patterson and 108 are, it's a main thoroughfare through our city. And so the city's attitude is we would like that people coming through our city have a more pleasant experience than possibly the next city to us.
Got it, okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Great, so we're gonna move to
Motion, right?
motion, good.
So this, oh,
And before we do, just to show off some of what we learned on Saturday, they said that you can use a term instead of the 4 to 6 months that you're talking about. They said you can use the term a date uncertain, and by using it, it could be a month, it could be 2 months. You can go back anytime you want, which is good. I think it continue that way. Is that correct?
Yes, if you would like to put a review at a date uncertain, then I guess it would be up to the planning department if we saw that there was a problem and brought it back to you. Or had maybe just an extra space on the agenda and thought it was time for an update.
Or the other would be what you're recommending, if everything's in compliance, we look at a 6 to 12-month window.
Yes, I could, bring an item in 6 months if you choose, and just, tell you how he's doing. Maybe stop out there a week or two before the planning commission meeting, take a few pictures during the regular course of business during that time, when we're out doing site reviews. Just swing by there and see how he's doing, if he's keeping up with the things that we've asked him to do. And then just, bring you a report on how it's all looking.
Guess we can go ahead and move for motion to, I guess I'll take a stab at this. Move to approve item 4.3, resolution condition use permit number 05-007 and business license action on code enforcement case number 2015-0209 for 209 concept resolution 2016-020 revoke.
There's two different resolutions.
So that's two different resolutions. So we're going to stop at the 209 concept part, right? Okay. So we're going to stop, and so we're going to approve. So we got two of these into one. Why is it?
It's either or.
It was for you to either affirm that he's doing okay and you're going to let him continue on in the business, or you're not happy with this progress and you're going to pull his license and the use permit.
So we can go ahead with what was just mentioned, and my motion is to approve with a condition of, I think you mentioned something like uncertain?
A date
A
uncertain.
date uncertain within the time frame of 6 months.
Or if you say a date uncertain, it goes on forever.
Yeah, we want a date uncertain that stops at 6 months. Because you say a date uncertain,
But that puts 6 months as a date.
but it puts 6 months as a cutoff, but any time within that 6-month period, it can be reviewed. How do we do something
That's
like
fine, so you're not continuing to a specific date, but you would like staff to bring it back within 6 months.
Just like that, okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, vote, Joe. Chair McKinney?
Yes.
Chair McKinney?
Yes.
Vice Chair King?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart? Commissioner Tabacco?
Yes.
And Commissioner Villepadua?
Yes.
That passes 5-0.
Outstanding, great. Planning Commission, none. Okay, so no upcoming agenda items. Do we have anything we'd like to report, commissioners? Any last minute words?
I do.
Alrighty.
I would like to note the passing of Bess Tollefson, who was a member of this planning commission for several years. She was a real asset to the commission and to the city, and she will surely be missed. She was a gracious lady.
Talk about the class we went to. It was very informative. Learned a lot. I liked the way they put it on with the attorneys there. That was very, it was very precise, as far as the Brown Act and AB. It was really geared to what we were doing right now, and it didn't have extra stuff.
I think the best part of it was the second part, when they talked about how to handle unhappy audiences. I thought that was very informative.
Right. They gave a lot of good examples of that. A lot of good examples of how to be careful of not creating a quorum unconsciously by either email, joint telephone conversation, carpooling, or just having a casual dinner with people who are in the same caliber of business as you are. Things to be because we are representing the community and the public, they have to have an opportunity to speak, and when they don't, then we violated their opportunity. So it was a lot of eye-opening experiences that the legal firm brought to us that I think was that I know was very beneficial, very beneficial. Anything else? Nothing else? Go ahead and adjourn. Oh, we're early.
Don't matter, but.